Now, tributes are pouring in for human rights lawyer Thulani Maseko, who was killed outside his home in eSwatini. He chaired the pro-democracy multi-stakeholder forum, consisting of civil society groups that are working to amplify calls for democratic reforms in that country. Let's get your reaction to this now. Bring in Vusi, who is the president of Swaziland People's Liberation Movement, joining us live today from Johannesburg, I understand. Vusi, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. In fact, some of these civil society organizations that Tulani led in some respects have spoken out saying they're not surprised by what's taken place because of how outspoken he was on the government there. What's your response to that?
Hi, Ayanda. Ayanda, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Did you catch my question?
No, I didn't quite get your question. Please,
sure.
Please repeat. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Civil society organizations have now come out to say they're not really surprised by what's taken place, given how outspoken Thulani Maseko was, and in fact what the monarch had said just moments before he was killed.
Yes, it's very true. We all in the mass democratic movement concur with what is being said. We all remember, Ayanda, that a day earlier, actually earlier in the day, on the day of the assassination of Comrade Tulani, the king had nakedly shown arrogance of the highest order, where when he bragged that he had assigned people that he had assigned people to deal with the dissidents, as we are being called, people that are calling for multi-party democracy and the return of political pluralism in the country. So the king had made a vow, and the king had said that he was going to take decisive action and deal with pro-democracy activists in the country. Having said that, a few hours later, that's when we were all shocked at the news of the brutal assassination of Comrade Tulani in cold blood by the king. So we are very much saying that the king is responsible not only for the killing of Tulani, but also for other pro-democracy activists in the country.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the government of eSwatini releasing a statement yesterday where they sent their condolences to those affected by this killing. And I wonder what you should read into that, especially because as far as you're concerned, it's a matter of fact that the king is behind this. Yes, it's actually very...
the way to put it, is to say that this shows to everyone that the government of Swaziland is guilty even before we were even telling the world that they were responsible for the assassination of Comrade Tulani. How can the head of state, the whole head of state, openly say that he's going to kill he's going to kill people that are fighting for democracy, and then a few hours later, Tulani gets killed? And then before we could even process that, the government spokesperson and the government at large, they come out to do an unprecedented thing, whereby they send out a statement of condolences to the family and the mass democratic movement for the murder of a proponent of democracy. So it goes to show all and sundry that the government is guilty, and the government is very much feeling the heat. So they were trying to quell the backlash that was going to come. Because as I'm saying, that it has never happened before that at the murder of a pro-democracy activist, you'd see the government releasing a statement just to say that they are mourning the death of one of our own. So it was a way on their side just to openly expose themselves that they are guilty. That's why they're trying to release the statement. And we must say that we're not pleased about this, and we know that they are responsible. Actually, King Mswati is the one who is responsible in his official and also in his personal capacity as a Makosetive Dlamini.
Yeah, there's going to be real and obvious concerns around the chilling effect that this killing could have on people who once again have joined Tulani in amplifying calls for democracy. How worried are you about that and the impact it's going to have on the movement?
As we speak, Ayanda, there is also a list that is making rounds in Swaziland and of other people that have been identified that they are going to be killed. And these are leaders of different formations in the country. That includes political parties, that includes civil society organizations, and trade union movements. This list has been leaked and it is making rounds. But in as much as that may be the case, we are not deterred, Ayanda, about what is happening and what has happened. We know that the road to liberation, the road to a free Swaziland, obviously it was never promised that it was going to be a smooth ride. We knew that it was going to be a bumpy ride, and we know that in as much as this is happening, we are not going to be deterred and we are not going to back down. One appeal that we would want to do to the South African government in particular is that the king has openly bragged about these hitmen that he has hired. And then we're just appealing to the South African government because our investigations have revealed that the people that are responsible for this and the people that are in the country masquerading as security specialists hired by the government of Swaziland, they are actually in direct contravention of Act 27 of 2006, which talks about the prohibition of mercenary activities and regulations, and related activities in countries of armed conflict. So we're calling on the government of South Africa and to South Africans in general. They have in the past given us support in terms of amplifying and talking about our cause in Swaziland. So we're just saying that we cannot allow to have people leave their country and come and kill our fellow countrymen with impunity, as we're seeing happening with this security company that is moving door to door, abducting and killing our people, as in the same likeness as you saw during your times of upheaval in South Africa during the apartheid years.
At the time of his killing, Thulani, we understand, was actually involved in pending litigation against the king himself, I beg your pardon, over the decision to essentially rename the country from Swaziland to eSwatini. Do we know what happens to that case now?
In Swaziland, unfortunately, Ayanda, you know that everything belongs to the king and is under the control of the king. As you know that he's the almighty in small letters of Swaziland. So having said that, even the judiciary in Swaziland is controlled by the king as he controls all three arms of government. So whatever case that you can bring before the courts in Swaziland, as long as it touches on royalty, as long as it touches on the establishment, that will never see the light, the light of day. We are all aware that it's now going to 2 years. We've got 2 MPs that were arrested, and they've been denied bail continuously by the same system. So the same issue that Comrade Tulani had also raised on the renaming of the country, which Makhosetive just did without any consultative process with the nation. It is also stored and collecting dust in the many files of in the pillar and the pile of files that are in the High Court. As long as it relates to royalty, as long as it relates to the king and his government, obviously that one is never going to be adjudicated, nor is it going to see the light of day in terms of going through the court processes.
Yeah, understandably, there are many people speaking out about what's happened, even on the basis of principle. But I wonder, Vusi, to what extent that puts your own life in danger?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part.
I was just saying that many people are speaking out quite openly against the king. But if you're saying what has taken place has in fact occurred, I wonder how worried that you're speaking out might put your own life in danger.
Obviously, there's a state of fear, there's a state of uncertainty in the country, because many times before, people had said that you only endanger your life when you go out and participate in public demonstrations in the towns and in the rural communities. But the stage at which the struggle in Swaziland has now entered into, you see that the king, using his hitmen and other murderers masquerading as police officers and the army, they are now going to people's houses. All houses of pro-democracy proponents have been targeted at night. Comrade Tulani was shot in cold blood, sitting in his lounge, watching television. So that is the state that the country is gripped now. And we just want to appeal to eMSwati to say, let us use Comrade Tulani's departure as a wake-up call for all of us to come together and for all of us to speak in unison and in one voice and say that we do not want and we're sick and tired of the Nkundla system in all its entirety. All systems that are in place that the king wants to use and the king wants to parade. in this case, we're having the forthcoming selections. They are not elections because they fail to meet the democratic and the basic democratic tenets of what an election is supposed to be. So the king is now going to be holding this election, and then after that, he's going to go out to the world and brag to the world and lie to the world to say everything is honky-dory in Swaziland. Yet we know very well that the government, the members of parliament that are going to be elected, they are not going to have any powers whatsoever in terms of changing the system, the current setup of Dingundla. What we are calling for, we're calling on our people, we're calling also on our fellow members as well, heads of the mass democratic movement, to say, let us stand in one voice. Let us stand in one voice and tell the world to say that we are not going to participate in these forthcoming sham elections. That is one of the reasons why Comrade Thulani was also assassinated, because he was a strong advocate and proponent of saying, let us not participate in these elections because it gives credence and it gives some legitimacy to the system to say that, like any other civilized society, the Swazi government goes to periodic elections every 5 years. Yet in actual fact, it is a fact that election still maintains the status quo, whereby the king is still sitting in power and there's no political pluralism in the country. So we're saying that hard as it might be, let us stand firm, but most importantly, let us hold each other as the nation. And then we are also appealing to the international community. Swaziland is the only remaining skunk in the world that doesn't have multi-party democracy, particularly in the region. So we're calling on all, including SADC. They have failed us in the past, but we're still hopeful that SADC, the AU, the African Union, the EU, and all other international players to say, let us take the issue of Swaziland seriously before innocent people are killed by this murderous King Mswati and his regime.
Vusi Shongwe, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. It's a story we'll keep watching for you as it continues to unfold. Vusi is the president of the Swaziland People's Liberation Movement.